Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to the Entrepreneurship Forum. Today, I have a special guest who has been in the clothing industry for a long time, who's now retired. He's going to talk about what the clothing industry is about and give you a sample of his experience in that industry. And I think what he's going to do also is talk to you about how to dress for success in an economic way. So I want to turn the time over to a good friend of mine, and he golfs better than I do, and he's a great guy.
That you're interviewing with, that you may be interacting with on a business basis. Now, obviously, if the CEO of your company declares that this coming Friday is going to be Casual Friday, then everybody, of course, will come casually dressed. But otherwise, in a business setting, particularly if there's some respect involved, you want to dress up and look nice. People will think better of you, and you will think better of yourself when you do so in that particular setting. Well, enough about that. I'd like to know who of you in this group today are business students? Just a raise of hands. Okay, most of you. Great. All right. Well, and I hope that you'll be interested in learning about the apparel industry. Rick referred to it as the clothing industry, but professionally it's known as the apparel industry. And I particularly have an interest in and have some professional experience in the sportswear part of the industry as opposed to formal clothing. We didn't ever make tuxedos or formal dresses or anything like that. We were in the sportswear industry, which is where the bulk of the business is. Particularly with emphasis today on the jeans manufacturing industry. I thought we'd talk about that because all of you, I'm sure, own several pair of jeans, perhaps one or two, but you are familiar with the jeans industry from the standpoint of a consumer. So we're going to talk about a different perspective on the industry. We're going to talk first of all about the manufacturing part of the industry and how that works. We're going to talk about the retailing part of the industry and how that works. And then we're going to come to you guys, how to be a better consumer. And I think that's really the most important thing you'll learn today is how to be a better consumer. Fotheringham, my last name, is Scottish. And as you know, all Scots have a reputation for being very careful with their money. And I come from that long line of Scotsmen who are very careful with their money. And so I'm very interested in helping you learn how to be more careful with your money as you shop, not just for jeans, but for other things as well. Now, early on in the jeans business, way back in the early 1900s, there was a man by the name of Levi. That was his actual name. And he discovered a fabric, a very heavy-duty cotton fabric to make denim pants out of for the miners. Remember the gold rush from the San Francisco area? Well, you weren't there, obviously, neither was I. But nevertheless, that's how denim jeans got their start, was for miners. And then along came the cowboys and people and farmers and people like that, blue-collar workers, blue-collar people that really wanted some heavy-duty clothing. Now, of course, all these years later, denim jeans have become a fashion item, haven't they? And so that's a good thing because they're relatively inexpensive. And we want to make sure that you get the best value for your money when you buy a pair of jeans. So let's start first of all with the manufacturing part of the business. The manufacturing part of the business begins with research. Now, any idea how people would research how to decide what to make? Any comments from the audience? Anybody at all? How would a manufacturer come to decide how or what the public wants? Yes?
Just identifying a missing product, some niche to fill.
Okay, niche to fill, that's a good idea. Have any of you ever heard of focus groups? You know what a focus group is? Farouz, do you know what a focus group is?
It's like, I don't know, like some people get together and discuss what, like, certain things that they want to talk about, like if like they're looking for missing product, like as you're saying. So they discuss it and they, take others' point of view.
Okay, that's a good start, but it's more specific than that. Yes?
Like maybe focus group can be children or like ladies.
Potential consumers, right? That's what we're looking for. So what a manufacturer will do will be to gather a group of people in a room like this. And they will ask them specific questions about what they like or don't like about the products that they're currently buying on the market. And then the manufacturer takes that information back and they run it through their filters that they have, and they come up with some answers about what kind of designs people are looking for. Do they like, in the jeans industry, for example, do they like dark colors? Do they like stonewashed? Remember the term stonewashed? That was practically beat to death before you ever bought it in the store. And they didn't last very long because the rocks that they used in those machines to beat them up with pretty well destroyed the jeans. Now that some of the young people are wearing jeans that are purposely ripped and torn, and I mean, my generation, we think that looks awful. But you pay a lot of money for those jeans, don't you, that are all ripped and torn like that? Well, the point being that a focus group will tell the designers what people are looking for, what colors they want, what shades of color, and so forth. Now, denim is dyed with an indigo dye. Now, the cotton fabric is always white. I mean, cotton is white, isn't it? But so in order to get the color that we're talking about here, it has to be dyed with an indigo dye. And then after it's washed, it depends on what shade you get. It can be washed once and you get a dark shade, or it can be washed 50 times before it ever is put into a garment, and it will become a faded color, which some people prefer, and that's great. All right, that's just one aspect. So research, product design, the designers of the fabric and the product itself depend upon this research to decide what to make. Now, then it goes to the merchandising staff. And the merchandising staff takes that information and says, whoa, what you want would cost us a fortune to make, and I don't think anybody would buy it. Or they might say, that's a great idea, let's see what it would cost to make that product. So, much of what we do in this business is very basic. In other words, we build on established markets. This particular pair of jeans happens to be Wrangler. Now, the reason I brought this particular pair, I've got Lee's and I've got Levi's and so on, but I bought this Wrangler jean here, brought it here because not only is the price very low, but it's probably the finest manufactured pair of denim jeans in the market. Believe it or not. Price and value don't always correlate. You can pay $100, can't you? Looking at you girls now, you can pay $100 for a pair of jeans that have Diesel or some fancy name on them, and the quality isn't near as good as a pair of these. But you probably wouldn't be caught dead in a pair of Wranglers, because that only people from Oakley or Peoria wear Wranglers, right? The people who live on Salt Lake don't wear Wranglers. Well, actually they do. But the point is there is a correlation between value and price, and we'll talk about that when we get over here. All right, the merchandising staff then decides what to make. Then they turn it over to the sales and marketing people. Now, we're still talking manufacturing. They turn it over to the sales and marketing people saying, we want to make this product and we think we can sell X thousand dozens. Jeans are sold in dozens, not in individual pieces. So they have to come up with a marketing strategy then, how much advertising we're going to put into it, how much do we pay the sales staff, and pretty soon they come up with an actual cost per pair. And that cost per pair is determined like this. Some of these prices may shock you, but nevertheless, these are the prices. These were the prices a few years ago when I was in the business. They may have changed very slightly because we haven't had a lot of inflation in the last few years. So these are pretty current, I think. Okay, we'll say the fabric itself cost the manufacturer $3 per pair. What we call TB&A is thread, buttons, and accessories, the little stuff. Thread, buttons, and accessories, like a zipper, for example, that's considered an accessory. That probably comes to $1 per pair. Now, these are not exact. I'm rounding them off just for your information. They could be $1.14, but don't worry about it because everything's relative. So then the actual labor involved, which is cut and sew. Now you know what I mean by cut? You folks that have ever made anything from a pattern, you know, you have this huge big piece of cloth, you have to make a pattern out of it, and then you cut it according to the pattern maker's design, and then of course it has to be sewn into a pair of jeans. So this is the actual labor involved, and that's the most expensive part of the whole process. That's about $4. Now why do you think all of the manufacturing of jeans in the world is no longer being done in the United States of America? Labor cost. That's right. For many, many years, Levi's, Lee, and Wrangler bragged about being made in America. That was a big deal, wasn't it? Made in America. Can't afford to make them in America anymore. Too expensive. So these are made very well, the quality is very high, but they're made in Mexico because of labor cost. And shirt materials like T-shirts and things, they come from Bangladesh, from Pakistan, from Vietnam, all over the world because the labor costs are so low. So this at $4 is not even the American labor price, that's a Mexico price. Now, then you have something called plant overhead. The plant overhead pays for all the machinery to manufacture the product. And this would run about $1. Then you have a sales and marketing cost. This is advertising, sales force, everything that has to do with getting the jeans sold. That's about $2. Then you have to add some profit in there because there's no point in manufacturing anything if you can't make a profit at it. So this is pre-designed, pre-set into the price of the product. So this profit margin to the manufacturer is about $1 a pair. Now you think, well, that's not very much profit, but you know, they sell millions of pairs of jeans, the major manufacturers. And even some of the smaller manufacturers sell lots and lots of jeans, but their profit margin is much higher because they have smaller quantities that they sell. Okay, who's added that up for me, and what have we got here for total cost of manufacturing a pair of jeans? $12. Now, can you see why paying $100 for a pair of jeans is kind of dumb, really? Unless you've just got to have that pair that fits you perfectly and your boyfriend says, wow, you look really good in those, you're going to pay the price, right? But here's what it costs to manufacture a pair of jeans. Now, there might be a few cents one way or the other depending on brand, but basically that's it. So, let's talk about the retail operation. In the retail store, like a Macy's, for example, a big store, you have a merchandiser who makes the decision about what products and what brands they're going to carry in the store. Now, recently that's changed in the big department stores because the big stores like Macy's and Dillard's and Nordstrom's and so on, they now lease space to the manufacturers. That's a new thing that's happened in the last 10 years. For when you go into Macy's and you see the Ralph Lauren section on the main floor, that space has been leased to Ralph Lauren and they can put in there in that space anything they want. But they have to turn so many dollars of gross profit each quarter in order to maintain that space. But that's a different issue. I don't really want to get in that. That's very sensitive to me because we didn't ever pay the leasing prices. So anyway, the merchandiser decides what's going to be carried in the store, and then he has a group of buyers working for him, and he tells them what lines they're going to buy. And then they're allotted so much square footage within the store. So the next time you go into a department store, it's easier for me to talk about department stores than it is little specialty shops. But when you go into a department store, you look around, you see all these different departments that have brand names on them. Generally speaking, on the main floor of the store, those are leased. In the cosmetic business, it's people like Revlon, Maidenform in the undergarments business, Ralph Lauren, all of those major names that you're familiar with, those are all leased spaces on the main floor of a department store. So then the buyer buys for all the rest of the store, and they determine what the price is going to be. And so let's talk about the price that the stores charge. Now this is the price that the store bought it at, right? They bought it direct from the manufacturer at $12 a pair. So I'll show you a couple of ads I pulled out of the paper just this week. This is Kohl's. And here is Levi's at Kohl's at $39.99. And that's a pretty good price because they say that the original price or the retail price, regular retail price, is $58. Now, a lot of consumers will think, wow, the regular price is $58, but think, how do they come up with that regular price? Who determines that? They do. They do, don't they? Okay, manufacturer didn't tell them they have to sell it for that or put that price on it, but they will tell the manufacturer what price to put on the little tags, the price tags that come, because they come from the manufacturer. So each retailer will tell the manufacturer what price they want on those tags. And so Kohl's says, we would like $58 to show as our regular price because we're going to put them on sale for $39.99, and people are going to come in and think they're getting one hell of a deal. Remember what they paid for them? Now that's okay, because every retailer to stay in business has to make what? A profit. That's the only way they can stay in business, is to make a profit. And so it's called gross margin. Gross margin is the difference between this number and this number. Not here, forget this. This is a phony number. But the selling price compared to the cost is what we're concerned about here. So that's called, the difference is their gross margin. And then from that, what do they have to pay for out of that gross margin? They have to pay rent, lights, heat, salaries, labor costs, all of that, you know, the cost of the rent of the store space, all of that comes out of the gross margin to come to a net profit. And this is what the store is judged on, is its net profit. And the manager of the store that doesn't come up with a continuing net profit at the end of each season eventually will be fired. They've got to come up with a net profit that makes sense to the stockholders, because the stockholders are the ones that care about this, because that makes the price of the stock go up and down. It's whether the chain continues to make net profit or not. Okay.
Is there a typical net profit that you see?
Well, let me tell you what. I'm going to tell you about a great business model. It's called Costco. Are you all familiar with Costco? They developed a business model that just blew everyone away. Not Walmart. Walmart just goes cheap, 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 cheap. That's their mantra. Cheaper, cheaper, and cheaper. And they beat up the manufacturers like you can't believe for, you know, extra penny here and there. And I mean, it's just, Walmart's the worst person in the world to do business with as a manufacturer, because they just beat you to death. Now, Costco, on the other hand, they go out and they buy unique stuff. They don't buy the same stuff that everybody else has. Now, there are some items, obviously, that are duplicated. But Costco goes out, they send buyers all over the world to look for different products, different ideas, different price points, and then they bring them into their stores on a regional basis. In other words, the same stores in Seattle, where they're headquartered, don't carry the same things that they carry in Salt Lake. They have researched each market to the point where they know that the people in Salt Lake will buy certain things. And so they buy a lot of it, and then they package it so you have to buy a lot of it. Okay? Now, there are some individual things you can buy at Costco, and that happens to be jeans. Now, what's the brand name? Kirkland, is that it? Okay, Kirkland. When you go into Costco and look for a pair of Kirkland jeans, they are made just as well as these, but they carry only a 12% markup. And that's the genius of Costco. Everything in that store carries a 12% markup. That's it. And they live very comfortably on 12% because they sell huge volume at 12%. And if their buyer gets a real deal on something, they pass it on to the consumer. It's amazing. They only want 12%. But these other stores have to work on 50% because a keystone markup, and that, are you familiar with the term keystone if you're in the retail business at all? A keystone markup is doubling the cost. So a keystone markup here would be $24. That's what the minimum that they would like to get out of a pair of jeans. So that's why Walmart, Shopko, a lot of your high volume stores, they work on 50% markup. So you can go into Shopko, for example, which I think is where I bought those, and got them for $19.95. They were on sale. Regular price $24, which is a keystone markup. And I got them for $19.95. And that's a great deal for me and a great deal for them because they only paid $12 for them. So be careful as a consumer. Here's an ad from Smith's Marketplace. It says, buy one, get one free. I want you to think about this. Buy one, get one free. Regular price, $44. Again, who came up with the regular price? They did. Yeah. So regular price, $44. Now it says buy one and get one free. Or not one free, get one at half price. Buy one, get one free is different. Much better deal. But this is buy one and get one half price. So now you're going to buy the first pair $44. You're going to buy the second pair for what, $22? Okay, so now you own two pair of jeans you paid $66 for.
Heck of a deal.
Heck of a deal, right? Okay, you got one half price.
Yeah.
Still, they only paid $12.
$12.24 for two.
So, no. So, what's 2 into 66? Genius. Okay, they got 2 at $33, and you think you got a great bargain. But be careful, because it don't look so great, does it, when you do the numbers? So unless you really need 2 pair of jeans at the same time, then be careful of these buy one and get one at half price. Now the buy one and get one free is a little better deal, obviously, because you get 2 pair for $44, and that brings it down to $22, and that is a good deal. And that's really about the price range you should be paying for a pair of jeans is around $20. And that still gives the store plenty of margin to work with. Okay? Now, why do you bear, let's talk about why do you buy. We're talking about consumers now. Why do you buy a particular pair of jeans? What are the reasons you buy it? You say, oh, I like this brand, or I like this color. What's the number one reason you buy a pair of jeans? Yes, in the back.
Status.
I'm sorry? Status. That's an awfully good reason, yeah. So you're saying you wouldn't be caught dead in a pair of Wranglers. Is that what I'm hearing? Huh? I mean, they're cowboy jeans, right? No, that's fine. Hey, let me tell you, there are a lot of cowboys out there. A lot of ranchers, a lot of farmers, and you know, it's a great business. But what's another reason besides status?
Looks like the cut.
Fashion.
Okay, fashion. If it's got fancy pockets on, you know, that can be a good reason. Fashion. What was the other? I'm sorry.
Fit or cut.
Oh, that's the key, isn't it? Fit. That's the reason 98% of the people buy a particular pair of jeans is because they fit. Nobody wants to walk around in pants with baggy, you know. Well, maybe some of you do. But most of us want a pair of jeans that fit. And so that's the number one thing that the merchandisers over here, product design people, spend all of their time worrying about are the different body shapes. I mean, if we were to stand everybody up in this room, you'd see all these different body shapes. I mean, it's humanity, man. I mean, that's who we are. And so the designers spend all of their waking hours worrying not so much about color and price as they do fit, because that's what makes the difference. And so we have in the jeans market today, we have regular fit, we have comfort fit, we have slim fit, we have, all these different, and the only way to buy them is to try them on, right? I mean, that's the only way you can really know if a particular brand fits you better than another brand, is to try them on. And that's the only problem with the Costcos of the world, is they don't have any try-on rooms. Unless you can sneak a couple of pair into the men's bathroom, in the corner, which I've done on more than one occasion. But they don't have try-on rooms like department stores do. But anyway, fit is the number one reason that people buy jeans. Okay, in the few minutes we have left, I want to see first of all, if you have any questions at all about anything we've talked about so far. Because this is your forum, I'm just here rattling off information. So if you have any questions at all about the business, about the retail side of the business, or your personal purchasing side of the business, feel free. Anything occur to you?
One
Please.
question I had, when you're talking about cut and sew,
Mm-hmm.
and what they do, my understanding is in these mills that they have the fabric goes in, and it's cut by laser.
It is now. It's laser cut. Used to be cut with a knife. Yeah.
And so what I find incredible is that there'll be two pair of jeans that have the same tag that said whatever the size is, and you can try them on and they're very different. One seems to fit well and the other one doesn't fit quite so well.
And it has the same price or the same size tag on it.
Size tag on it.
Right?
And why?
It shouldn't. It shouldn't. If it doesn't fit according to the design that was plugged into the computer when the fabric was cut, then that's called a second. You've got one that's a second.
Okay.
Or you have one that's an irregular. And sometimes you can spot that, irregulars. Let me show you a couple of quality ideas that you should be aware of. Okay. Well, obviously you're going to buy the one that fits, but there should not be any difference if it's cut on the same machine by the same laser and it's had the same computer program put into it. Now here's some things to look for. For example, see the pockets on the back? They're evenly matched. I've seen some $100 jeans where they're not evenly matched. These are $20 jeans and they are perfectly matched. As you can see, the seams are perfectly straight down the side of the leg on both sides. That's not always the case. Sometimes seams get twisted in the manufacturing process, or after you've washed them a few times, they get twisted. That's not a good pair of jeans. Also, if you'll notice that the seams are what we call felled seams. They're not just simply stitching the fabric together, they're turning the fabric over so it's double layered and then double stitched. That's what a quality pair of jeans looks like. It's double stitched after the fabric is folded over, and it's called a felled seam. Okay? That's something else to look for. Also look for the stress points. How's the manufacturer taking care of the stress points? The stress points are on the corners of the pockets, aren't they? Because when you're putting your hands in and out of your pockets, that's a stress, and that seam will come apart unless it's got a rivet in it, a metal rivet. You'll notice the metal rivet on the pockets, on both ends of the pocket. Some manufacturers will put it on just one end. We put it on both. You'll notice that the belt loops are felled, stitched also. It drives me crazy when a belt loop pops off when you're putting your belt on a pair of jeans or a pair of slacks of any kind. These are also felled and stitched twice. So little things that you look for. The fact that it has a yoke on it. This piece on the back is called the yoke. And that has to be not straight across, but has to be kind of in a V shape so that it fits across the top of your butt. Because if it doesn't, there'll be a gap back there. And so some of the cheap jean manufacturers will do that. They'll just make that, they'll just sew this top part on the legs with a seam that goes straight across, and you wind up with a gap. That's your belt line. So these again are little things. Buttons are very carefully sewn on. Sometimes they're a little hard to work with. Zippers, you want to make sure they're a good quality, high quality zipper that doesn't pop on you the first time it comes out of the wash. Now, I want to show you this pair. This has been washed maybe 10 times. I want to show you another pair that's been washed probably 100 times. And this is what happens. I mean, I've had these for probably 10 years. They've been washed and washed and washed and washed, and this is what happens to the color. These started out this color. But after they get washed over and over and over again, the indigo dye begins to fade. And but the seams are still straight down the side of the leg. The pockets are still intact. Nothing's torn. I mean, that's what we're talking about here is quality and value. And quality and value makes all the difference to you as a consumer. The only thing that started to happen is on the bottom where it's rubbed against my boots or shoes, and the bottoms are starting to fray just a little bit. But that's okay. I'm not going to throw them away. These are the most comfortable pants I own. I mean, after you wash these many, many times, don't they get comfy? Yeah. As long as they still fit. Now, if you haven't changed size, they will still fit because all of the fit parameters in this pair of jeans are still built in there. So if you're still a size 10 or a size 8 or whatever you are, you gals, that's still a size 8. Yes, please.
Wasn't that like the Levi manufacturing that they're setting and coding? They wouldn't have a specific one number that have to go out. They'd have to have a range.
That's exactly right.
Especially if they're working with lasers, so that's how you could get two different pair of pants that say the same size.
Yep.
Because you could just be one end of the range on this side, or really one end of the range on this side.
Well, in a straight leg jean, if it's classified as a straight leg jean, and it's a size, 36 waist, 30-inch length, it should be exactly the same because that jean has been cut with a computer program and a laser cutter.
I worked at a it's called Sportwear, where we use lasers to cut, but we still have to have a range. There has the computer system doesn't understand, do the same thing every time. I know it doesn't make sense normally, but there has to be, even though if the range can be really small, there's still a slight difference, just like a bottling machine for orange juice. By law, they have to be within a certain
tolerance, right?
Every single, if you take a sample of every bottle coming off at the same time of day, that bottle's not going to be the same as the third one down. There's going to be a
slight difference. Could be, yes.
My understanding is that kind of thing comes from like tiny differences in folding when it's stitched, or like the way that the fabric is made itself, so it shrinks.
This is where those little tiny differences will happen, is in the cutting and sewing. Not in the cutting part, but in the sewing part.
Yeah, not the computer though.
No, the computer program is checked religiously by the people that are, because they're cutting thousands of pairs, and they can't really get off by many millimeters. But in the sewing part, that's a person laborer sitting at a machine putting those seams together, and that's possible that there could be slight mistakes there. So thank you for your comment. I appreciate that.
The CEO of Levi had made some statement, I think it was this year even, saying that Levi's don't need to wash it, period. That fold them up once a month, throw them in your freezer. You don't.
From your freezer? Ooh, that, I don't know how comfortable that would be.
Like he said, once a month, so they don't get funky.
Yeah.
You put them in the freezer for 24 hours, and I still wash my jeans.
Yeah. Thank you. We all thank you. Yeah, I have not heard that before, but a lot of manufacturers are always looking for a little marketing edge, and maybe he was looking for a little niche business there.
For that green edge, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's what he's going for.
Could be. Coming from San Francisco, which is where they're headquartered, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. Yes, please.
Is
common for the manufacturers to wash the fabric before they cut?
Depends on the style, because
It shrinks, I'm just thinking it shrinks.
right, they like to pre-shrink them, and so that's called garment washed. In previous years, we did what was called fabric washing. In other words, they washed the fabric first and then sew it. But now they garment wash because you get a better fit.
Yeah, and that's what I appreciate.
Yes.
They shrink.
Yep. Well, years ago, you know, Levi had, the original 501 was a shrink to fit. You're way too young to remember this, but back in the days when I was in high school, we would put on a pair of Levi's, we'd guess at the size, and then we'd go sit in the bathtub. I'm serious. Sit in the bathtub. Rick never did that. He was never a Levi guy, but he always dressed up. But in any
It
event,
was a Levi.
yeah. But those were the original denim jeans that high school kids wore back in my day, and you had to get them wet to get them to fit your body. I mean, it was. But once they fit, boy, they were great, weren't they, Rick?
And you'd also put bleach in the washing.
Yeah, to put streaks in and different things
So
to make
they
them
look
look.
like your other.
So they look like these, yeah. Now they come from the manufacturer, if they, you know, because you can buy them like this, with this color. But this happened to be a pair that started out that color and then just wound up this color. We've got about 5 minutes left. I want to talk to you just briefly about one other thing, and that's T-shirts. T-shirts, again, is something that all of you wear. There are some different fabrics you need to be aware of. For example, this happens to be 100% cotton. This is the least expensive fabric, but it also can shrink. It also wears not as well as some others. For years and years, people said, oh, only buy cotton, only buy natural fabrics. But guess what? That's not all that's on the market today. This is one of my old cotton T-shirts. It's great. I love it. This is one that I bought at an outlet store, the Under Armour store. And I like this because it has a little stretch in it. And it's part cotton and part polyester. Now, the word polyester used to be, nobody wears polyester. You know. But guess what? The science of polyester manufacturing is so good now that they actually build fabrics. This is a polyester fabric that wicks moisture away from your body. So you can wear this to run in. This is a 100% polyester that I've got. It happens to be a Fila. This is the most comfortable shirt I own. I mean, it's terrific, but it's all polyester. So there's all different kinds of combinations of cotton, 100% cotton, which will stretch out eventually and lose its shape over time. Combination of the two, cotton poly, which is a very comfortable shirt, has just a little stretch in it. And then this one, which is all poly, that is the best shirt I own. Now, there's a price difference. The all cotton probably costs $7. I think I paid at the outlet store $15 to $18, something like that. This one's a $25 T-shirt. In fact, it was given to me. I would never buy $25 for a T-shirt, but I think somebody gave this, one of my kids gave this to me for Father's Day, and I absolutely love it. It's so comfortable, just lightweight, and you can wash it. It never loses its shape, but it wicks moisture away from your body. So there's all kinds of new fabrics out there. Enjoy the marketplace. Be smart. Look for quality. Look for weight when you're looking at T-shirt fabrics. If you're looking especially for cotton, make sure it's a heavier weight, because there's some real cheap junk out there on the market that is just awful. Now, all of these were made in foreign countries. This one, I think, is made in Vietnam. This one comes from Indonesia. And this one comes from Egypt. So don't be afraid of the country of origin. And all clothing today manufactured and sold in, or not manufactured, but sold in the United States must carry a label that has country of origin on it. So be smart and enjoy and have fun buying sportswear. Thank you for your time today.
This say made in America, and you kind of wonder because it's made all over the place. And
Yeah.
sometimes, depending on where it's assembled, it can be labeled made in America. And a lot of different things happen, but you can, as Steve so aptly pointed out, dress very fashionably for reasonable price, which is a good thing. And it would be to your benefit to pay attention to those things. Also, as you go to interview and things, you want to make sure that you're dressed to meet whoever you interview with, and have a little feel for what that industry is, what that company portrays. So when you go there, you look like you fit in, and that's kind of important. So again, let's give Steve a big hand, and look how stylish he is.
Thank you.